Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hi. Oh my gosh, Kathy, I'm so excited.
I'm super excited. Like our first show together. This is exciting.
No. Welcome everyone. Welcome to this amazing new show. Kathy and I are so excited to bring it to you on TETV. So jazzed.
Welcome to A Day in a Life. And I mean, she's already introduced me. I am Kathy Dixon. And we are very excited to have Trivium Interactive as our very first guests of A Day in a Life. And our guests are Kirsten Holmes. She's a principal and executive producer. And Jillian Dominici, principal, director of strategy. So let's see what they do.
So crazy.
That
So
was
good.
amazing. Hello and welcome to A Day in a Life.
Hello, thank you.
Oh my gosh. So Kirsten and Jill, that just that sizzle reel was so just mind blowing with all the cool stuff that Trivium is doing. But before we talk about what Trivium is doing, can y'all please introduce yourselves? Just because everybody out there needs to know who you are.
Well, thank you. My name is Kirsten Holmes, and I'm a principal at Trivium Interactive. And I also do executive production, so I run jobs as well as I'm also a creative director. So I do a lot at Trivium.
Thank you. And hi, I'm Jill Dominici. I'm another one of the principals at Trivium Interactive. There's three of us total. And I handle strategy, so media strategy, overall interpretive media strategy. I do some creative direction, and I also handle most of our new business development as well. Those are the high levels of what we do, but Kirsten and I basically, we do a lot of stuff. So those are the high levels.
So if you imagine just hats flying over our heads all day, that's pretty much what we're doing.
Oh gosh.
Exactly. Exactly right.
I love that.
Perfect. Oh my gosh.
That sums up my day today, actually.
Oh, how did you get a video of me? It's so weird. Oh goodness. So what? Oh, gosh, I don't even know where to start because my mind is like racing with what I just saw and what I know of the company. And I'm, when I think of this industry, and in particular, what I like to call STEAM, it's it's STEM with the arts included. What that video just showed was all of that. It was science and tech and engineering and math and art and just all the amazing things that can come together and make something just breathtaking. So how do you encompass that like in your daily life? You know, when you sit down, I don't think you're probably like, how can I be the most excellent STEM representative today? So
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I think each job has a story to tell, and each client has a story to tell, and each museum has a story to tell. And even if it's the New York Power Authority and they're telling the story of electricity or what a power microgrid is, or if it's a story of Harbor Way and they're telling the story of a ship, or it's a very personal story of indigenous peoples. Each place has their own story. So technology is a set of tools that you can really bring these stories to life, but the technology always starts with the story. So and it should kind of be invisible to the visitor. Like these stories should come forth in these magical ways that aren't like, on these boring little screens. It should be this magical experience where our delivery platform is technology, but we're working closely with the client and the venue to tell a series of stories. We're storytellers. We're technological storytellers, if that helps answer your question.
oh, that's amazing.
So as technology and storytellers, what brought you to your current career? What was your path to get there?
So my background's not in technology at all. I actually have a graduate degree in Italian Renaissance art history. So very far away from what we do on a daily basis. But, I went to grad school. I came back, and one class I took in grad school was about interpreting content in a visitor experience. So it was specific to museums because it was Italian Renaissance art history. But, what I really glommed onto and what really attracted me the most about that was how to tell the story to somebody in a unique and novel way. And so when I got out of grad school and I was looking around for jobs, I ended up just falling into a junior level position with an exhibit design firm. And I realized that this type of industry existed because I didn't even know it existed up until then. So then, over the years, I went from position to position and then, moved across firms and finally ended up at a media firm where, I think I really realized that media was really one of the most engaging ways to tell a lot of these stories. And I've always loved the fact that we get to work with museums and visitor centers and themed entertainment centers and, zoos and aquarium and corporate visitor centers. Nothing's ever the same, but we always get to tell these stories and tell it to a different audience. So that's my quick overview of my path.
So the overview of my path was as a young, even junior high school student in Oregon. I thought I was one of those lucky kids. I knew what my career was in the 7th grade, and I thought I was going to be a lawyer. I started out in debate, speech from the very beginning, all the way through high school. I was on Mock UN, was the only girl because I'm so old, right? Back when girls didn't do debate, I was in Lincoln and Douglas, went to state championships, show up in my dress, and I would only girl on the platform. And I was nailing it. I was like, okay, this is great in high school. Then I go to undergraduate at Evergreen State College, and again, purely law. I did my whole senior year lobbying in the legislature, convinced I was going to be a lawyer. And I really never looked back. So then thought about graduate school, thought about law school, was ready to apply and do the LSAT. And then I decided to work for a year in law and realized I absolutely hated it. So I was like, oh boy. That was a big wake up call at 23 after spending, 7th grade through college preparing to be an attorney. And I was like, this is so boring and so uncreative. Like, what was I thinking? I was obsessed with philosophy and the big thinking behind law. But when I got into the granular case studies, I was absolutely dying. And I was like, oh no. So I had to really reshift what I was going to do with my life. So I went back and decided to go to graduate school in anthropology at Brandeis in Boston. I started in anthropology and I really liked it. And then serendipitously, I started with Franz Boa and Margaret Mead, and I just started looking at their photography. And then I was reading what's on the page, and I'm like, this is, Freudian BS, but I'm looking at these images going, this tells a story. It's amazing. And so I got really excited about film and photography in graduate school, and I lobbied to do my own major in graduate school, visual anthropology, where I really focused on film and photography, did a lot of photography. My thesis was a video on fundamentalist Christian homeschooling. And then I found something where time stands still and you just love what you're doing. But graduating with a degree in visual anthropology doesn't, immediately scream job. But I immediately got an internship at CF Video, and within 3 months was working at Chetty and Deere in Boston, which is one of our competitors now. I love the owner; he's a great guy. But I worked there for 15 years and kind of learned the ins and outs of the industry. Then worked another one of our competitors as a director of technology there, and then worked for another competitor as their general manager, all doing what we do. So I kind of started in the museum industry as media took off. Back then we started like we could push some buttons and see some videos, and then pretty rapidly we could do some pretty amazing stuff. So you really had to keep up and learn, so I learned to program at, after graduate school, just make sure that I could do some of the stuff design. But so I kind of rode that roller coaster as media became more and more prevalent in museums. It's been so exciting to see the transformation of what we can do. And, compared to 1996, we're looking at 2021. There's a lot that's changed.
Oh, yes. There's a lot.
Like, I'm not a lawyer.
Oh my gosh. And how, if you think back, how grateful are you that you had that wake up moment?
I'm really grateful. I mean, I do enjoy, I don't know if I enjoy, me and Jill write a lot of contracts, that hat animation. So that probably prepared me for that, the contracting that we do. But exactly. So that probably prepared me for that. And my daughter's actually was in pre-law, and I was getting really excited about our constitutional law class, move over to this online, let me. I'm very thankful that I made a career choice that allows me to be a lot more creative, because the creative part of our job it's just so amazing to have something born in your mind and be able to see that come to fruition. So
I think that's really motivating for a lot of people, is just this innate desire to create. It's it's the ultimate human expression is creation. And when I think of themed entertainment, little baby me, not current me, I was just like, oh, let's go have fun. And now, that I'm getting into all the theory behind it and everything y'all just said, and what Andy just commented in our stream, there's so many transferable skills that just you don't think about, because you're like, oh, well, I want to do concept art, so I don't want to take X, Y, and Z class. But that's not at all what the thought should be. The thought should be, I want to do concept art, so I probably should know how buildings hold themselves up.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And history about it as well.
Right.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I want to. Oh man.
Well, now since we've learned about your various backgrounds, which is really interesting, and how you made the leap over into, experience design, can you tell us a little bit about what Trivium does? We saw the sizzle reel at the beginning, and that was absolutely amazing.
Sure. So Trivium Interactive, we design and develop media-based interactives and immersive experiences. Here's our slide deck. So really anything in a themed entertainment experience or in a museum experience that gets run by a computer is something that we would work on. I don't know, can you don't see anything on the screen, so I just want to make sure that we're not. I'll chat a little bit about it. So, we work with, oh, there we go, museums and libraries and visitor centers and themed entertainment centers. And we do immersive experiences. We do things with augmented reality. We do touchless interactives, gesture-based interactives, things that run on, really robust content management systems that our clients can continue to update over time after we leave them with the product. We do apps that are integrated into the experience. So really anything computer-driven, we design and develop, and we work alongside experiential designers to do so. So
try to make things that you can't make at home, like what you're looking at right here.
Yeah, exactly. We don't just want to be like touchscreen focused. So everything is very much, what kind of a visitor experience can we take your content and create an experience for your visitors that is not something that they can just, pull out on their iPhone and do anyway, or their iPad.
So why don't you hold right here, because this is a lot of fun. So we just installed this recently. This is for the New York Power Authority. It's called the Energy Zone. And what you see there, actually, my daughter was on site with me, is we're using a Kinect camera. Actually, there are two Kinect cameras, and they sense your body. So you're walking into this immersive room. This is the culminating experience. There are 42 exhibits in this space. So this is the culminating experience. You learned about how electricity works. You learned about microgrids. You learned about the future of electricity. But this is the thing that's happening as you go out the door that's really exciting. So you walk in with friends. You see your body up on the huge projections, probably, I don't know, 12 feet long. And you first see yourself as electricity. You're just like all these little bobbling like electrical parts. And then you can clap and make thunder. You can jump and make this big sonic boom. But what's really fun is this president of power. Throughout the whole gallery, you have these RFID cards, and the better you do, the higher your rank. So the very highest rank is this president of power. So when you zap a friend with electricity, you turn him into a superhero. So you can sit there and zap each other, and you turn into superheroes. And it's just, this took a great deal of prototyping, as you can imagine, but I think it turned out really well. It's a lot of fun. This is the same room. This is Power Authority. After your big superhero zapping experience, it becomes an immersive theater, explaining the future of power. And this is a history timeline of all the utilities involved in the power grid of New York. You can slide that monitor on that rail right there, and it goes along.
This is a recent project we worked on here in Boston with the Museum of African American History. They have two campuses, one in Boston, one on Nantucket. We're helping them rework through their entire Boston campus. And this is their ground floor experience, which is what you see when you walk into this building. That they have two buildings, and they're basically the artifacts, the crown jewels in their entire collection are these two amazing buildings. One is this building here. It's the A.B.L. Smith School, built in 1835. And the other one is the African Meeting House next door, which is just this amazing, peaceful, like just gorgeous building. And it's the oldest Black church existing in America, and it dates back to 1806. So we helped build this this media display you can see there with all the beautiful colored images. That's based on their logo. They did a rebranding. They used the windows from the African Meeting House as their logo. We created this dynamic media display for them to showcase their collections and different thematics, images, so that people see it, bam, right when they walk in, this beautiful, ever-changing kind of stained glass window experience that really speaks to their collections and to the exhibitions upstairs, and helps draw people upstairs.
So you can see, like, we tackle really different content. So part of the excitement here is not just the technology, it's that you have to become an instant subject matter expert on whatever job you're working on. So like we all have books on our desk, and we're all trying to figure out how do the kilowatts work in a microgrid to some of this content. And this content is actually hilarious. So
right. Or you have to learn about mascot.
So I didn't even think about part of this project. The Mascot Hall of Fame is right outside Chicago. I never even thought about a mascot. I just saw them bopping around. It is so hard to be a mascot. You have to be an amazing athlete they endure so much. I mean, they're just like the pros on the field. I learned a lot during this project about what it takes to actually pull off being a mascot. So in this game is really fun. So Susie, everybody has like a t-shirt cannon. So this is a, another stream. This is another stream. So there's t-shirt cannon. And then this audience in the background is like scrolling back and forth. And it's everyone in our office, our clients. Like you can actually see me in the little blue shirt right there. So you're competing against each other, blasting everybody with t-shirts with your cannons. And then, there's scores and there's like decoys with mascots jumping up and popcorn people. If you're hitting the wrong person, you lose points. So this is a totally different type of experience. So this is like where like you're jumping content all the time.
Oh my gosh.
And this you get to like become part of, you're basically, there's a dress up cabinet, you put on outfits, and then you can see that there's a green screen thing. So you see yourself as a mascot with prompts, and you're doing, you're showing different emotions. There's a prompt on the back, like be sad, and then email a video home of yourself. It's super fun. And here you get to make your face into a mascot. So it's kind of like Snapchat, where you can take a picture of your face and you can do all kinds of stuff. Same thing here. You get to be a mascot. But those, we can talk about one more project. I don't want to go on too much, but it kind of shows you the range of the work that we do. This is probably a nice one to wrap on because this is completely different. So this is a sea change gallery for the Mystic Seaport Museum, and it's all about the story of how the sea changed that area in Mystic, Connecticut. And if you notice, like all of those are actually sails in the background. They're these beautiful modeled sails. And then we projection map on the sails and tell the story of different artifacts. So it's just a really interesting way to tell stories. So we almost created like distilled poetry where each projection is telling this visual story with very limited words about each artifact. And visually, it's really stunning. We couldn't really use a lot of sound in here because of you can see the architecture is almost like a wave, and then the stone floor. If you put a lot of sound in there, it's just going to bounce all over the place. But the visuals really, really told the story. When you walked in, it was absolutely glorious. Very pretty.
So you guys get to go through and work on that's a broad range of projects. Like that Mystic project, it's kind of amazing because that was like my home aquarium growing up. Anyway, so can you tell us a little bit about the formation of Trivium? And I know it's a women-owned business as well within themed entertainment, which is super exciting to me. So I might be biased.
Pretty exciting to us too. Yeah, absolutely. So we turned 5, and I think we're in March. So in 2 months, we're going to be 5 years old, which, looking back on it, it's like, oh my goodness, how did that happen? It started as Kirsten, myself, and our business partner, Bruce. It was just the 3 of us. We started Trivium really with the intent that we wanted to be able to bring media to museums and visitor centers and themed entertainment centers, no matter the size, because I do think that there's a lot of, particularly on the museum and cultural side, a lot of institutions who feel like, oh, we can't afford media, it's too expensive. And we knew from working within our field for as long as we had that there are definitely ways that you can integrate media into your experience that are not going to drain your budget. You just have to think about it smartly. So that was where we started. We really wanted to create this company that could work with, a small historic house museum, or, like a small site, or, be able to add little things here and there and really help these kinds of institutions be able to integrate media into the overall fabric. And we slowly grew over time. We're now up to, I think, 21 folks in the past 5 years, including the 3 owners. We've got about 21 folks on staff. And we still work with those small institutions, and sometimes they're still our favorite projects to work with and do. But we also work on much larger, full institutional installations now, or brand new museums or brand new exhibit experiences for themed entertainment centers. So we do everything of all size now.
And something to add to what Jill's saying that was really exciting to me is I think just because of how media unfolded in the museum industry, linear came first. So there's a lot of filmmaking companies that picked up interactive media because they were already doing films. And, back in 1996 when I started, the way media started was you push a button and you see a movie. So it's natural that filmmakers would make interactive media. So the process by which a lot of that interactive media, because of the nature of how it unfolded, was born from a process of making linear films. So what excited me about starting my own company is really focusing on how do you make immersive interactive experiences that are interactive, programmatic. They're not films. They don't get developed like films. And how do you cater the process around that and really make a robust prototyping process where getting visitors testing, it's agile, it's not the traditional way that some firms make these interactive pieces. So for us, that changing the process and really targeting the process on making programmatic media, as the owner and the controller of that process was a really exciting opportunity for me.
That's so cool. Sorry. So with your particular expertise and your background, how does that kind of translate into your job responsibilities, like your day-to-day? And how are they connected? Like, I know that, there are three like owners, but y'all each do something different.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good trilogy because, all of us are creative people, so that's helpful. But Bruce is really a great technologist and really thinks in the weeds about how technology works, which is, in our industry is extremely important. He breaks that stuff down to its component parts. I'm also creative, but I came from a long history of project management. So I've done a lot of project management with very big projects and very small projects, like Jill was saying. I've managed huge installations as well as like a single house museum. And honestly, I think a lot of that project management training came from waitressing. I would never discount that because the ability to sort of multitask like that and deal with all different clientele and not show stress under pressure. My educational background is extremely helpful in the content and the creative part of it, but the actual like moving the pieces and keeping cool under pressure and kind of good. I waitressed for 15 years, all through college, graduate school, all the way through that experience. So I think those skills came to play, and I would never downgrade manual work as a way to get to owning a company because it teaches you a lot. But yeah, I think they make a really good triangle. And then Jill can obviously talk about sort of what she brings to the party.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my background is definitely more in like research and content development and interpretive development. In the museum world, I was a certified interpretive developer for a while. So really getting down to the messaging hierarchy and the nuts and bolts of the storyline and building the storyline with words. But, with my background in the art history world, I have a very visual, I really think about things visually as well. So there's a lot of, crossover there too. But then my other kind of formative role here, and that I really started in the industry as was basically as unattractive as it is, was proposal writing. So I have, written hundreds and hundreds of proposals over the years, and every company I've worked for, including my own, I've brought in a lot of business through writing and like nailing proposals. So I think that's, I lead, for the most part, I lead our proposal development on the new business side too. But then to Kirsten's point, we all three owners do a lot of things, including a lot of paperwork, and just overseeing our cash flow, and then even some human resources stuff, and making sure our health insurance is we have the right things that we need for health insurance. So there's a lot of other things like day-to-day behind the scenes stuff, and I think where we all want to be is doing the creative stuff, but we also realize that there's a lot of stuff that we have to do in order to keep the company ticking too. So.
And I do think in my last position before I started my own company, my official title was general manager. And I think I did learn a lot of important information from that job about how to actually run a company and how to do like Joe was saying, like cash flow, how to balance pipeline, how to figure out if you're going to run out of money. That's a big part of what, as a small business owner, you really have to make cash projections and make sure that you make payroll and all that. And, good hiring decisions, figuring out when you can hire, when you can't hire, all that stuff. I'm really glad that I'm not figuring that out on my own company. I'm glad I came in with some experience in that.
I like that you called it like a triangle, because I was thinking of the three of y'all like a tripod. So that was a
Right.
good visual.
And that's kind of where our name came from. So, when we sat down and we decided we all wanted to work together and we wanted a company name, it was, how do we define this? And we looked at our skill set and we saw these overlapping areas where all of us tend to work together. And the word trivium is a Latin word, and it means, where the place where three roads meet. So it worked out really well for us to call ourselves Trivium, for all three of us there. So yes, a triad or a trivium. That's all exactly. Tripod.
So that's the three of us, but be clear, like our interns also bring a lot to everybody in our company brings a lot to the party. So
yeah, it's so cool too, because just having this conversation with y'all, it really kind of formulates like what good leadership should look like, and I appreciate that. Yeah. Is there, just in case, because not everybody is so well versed, is there any way that you could like define what interpretives are for our audience?
Sure. So the other way we kind of talk about it when we're chatting with clients too is, what's like the main messaging or the main themes of your experience, or a question I like to ask clients as we're starting to get to know them and, we're embarking on new projects are, what's the one thing you want people to leave your institution knowing, right? Like what is that formulative idea? So almost if you're writing a thesis paper, what's your theme that you're writing to and you're making sure everything's hitting every single time? That's kind of what we're doing when we talk about interpretation in a gallery. Like what are these messages that everything in a gallery or an exhibit experience or a themed entertainment experience needs to hit? So that everything kind of works together and hits that messaging. So it tends to look like this big messaging tree with like a big overarching big idea and then supporting ideas and then little storylines underneath them, if you want to think of like almost like a tree kind of visual, that might help too. So
it's something we think a lot about, and exhibit designers think a lot about. Everybody's got different names for them, but we call them streakers, strollers, and studiers. So you're thinking about an exhibit, like what happens with somebody spending 30 seconds? Like, do they get that big message if they're just like, meow, which is a lot of kids, right? So you got to make sure that those big messages you want them to get are really front loaded. And then, so that's our streaker. Our stroller is going to spend, 2 or 3 minutes there. They can probably get the next level of messaging. And then our studier is going to go all out and look at everything, but that's actually, the studier is not our primary visitorship. It's kind of in the middle. It's the 2 or 3 minute person. So we really think about content for all three types of visitors, but and we're not alone. This is not a trivium idea. I would never, everybody in our industry structures interpretive thinking around that concept.
Right. And if you think about like to move it over into like the ad industry world, you can think about like branded experiences and how like every touch point of a really well branded experience speaks towards like that brand definition. That's very much the same type of thing that we're doing like in a museum or a themed entertainment or an informal learning experience. Like every touch point, every interaction you're having with your visitor should speak towards that main interpretive goal and theme.
It helps, it helps when somebody knows a great deal about a topic. They really, it's very important to them to get a lot of content through. And it really helps to set design guidelines around like, what are we going to include? Because if it kind of goes outside of those big content messages, it gives a natural way to focus that content.
Right.
That's so cool. My brain is like firing off on all cylinders right now, just because where those three places meet forms such an integral part of the museum and interactive experience. Like it, oh gosh, I don't want to go too far in the weeds on that because I could literally just talk to y'all all day about this stuff because I'm brand new to this industry. So whenever I meet new people, it's all brand new to me. I'm just like, I need to know more.
Yeah. Well, we are hiring if you're.
Oh goodness.
Really? What are you guys searching for?
Well, in our industry, there is usually kind of an associate producer. So that's somebody who is more of a junior level, works with a project manager to run projects and do content research, and to support our content team as well as just keep us all organized. It's kind of the glue that holds our teams together. So very important role. We're hiring a Unity programmer. We're looking for a Unity programmer. And we're also looking for kind of a tinkerer, I'd call them, like someone who loves hardware, loves to like play with Arduino boards, loves to put stuff together that can help us set up some hardware prototypes. We are not a hardware company, nor do we ever want to be, but we are a company that loves to prototype and loves to make stuff and loves to test stuff and loves to like build crazy things on the walls. And our developers do not appreciate it when we're like, can you just build me one more thing? So we're really trying to get somebody who that is their passion, is to build these crazy mock-ups with hardware so that we can test them.
Oh my gosh. I know. I'm just like, how many people do I know that would love to do all of that? Yes, thank you. Y'all are going to be flooded. You're going to be inundated. It's going to be fantastic. Oh my goodness.
Well, those job listings are on our website, and that's enough advertising for the day.
Hi.
Hey, strong little friend.
You want to say hi? No, the next generation right here.
The next generation of testers.
Yeah. All
right. Gonna be building in the shop soon. Look, she's gonna have her little Arduino board.
Our kids are our first line of defense on testing and making sure that things work. So I'll be right back.
Somebody had an orange popsicle. Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
So adorable.
So that's a nice segue into saying, I mean, we are a women-owned company, and tech doesn't always value. I mean, there's a lot of stories. I'm not pointing fingers at all, but tech doesn't always value that kind of home-work balance and what happens when you have children. You know, it's a traditionally male-dominated industry. So we do put a lot of value on children and making sure our employees have, good maternity and paternity leave policies and have good work at home policies when they have children. So that's a real value of ours as a women-owned company to kind of, and I do think that's a pivot away from a lot of the ethos of tech companies where it's like, you imagine a bunch of men drinking Mountain Dew, sweaty in t-shirts at 11 o'clock at night, So we are, we do value that balance between going home at night.
And that's got to add to the culture, the company culture. Just that right there, where Jill's daughter came in, and she was like, "Be right back." Didn't think anything of it. Was not like, "Oh, it's so refreshing. It's absolutely refreshing."
It is.
I don't even have kids, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad it's refreshing. No, I mean, and I think the past year has really kind of, changed just in general everyone's view of that kind of thing. But I think my kids have made an appearance on almost every single client call, either one of them. And on all my clients have met my children. So
when you work at home, it's very hard to, but it's definitely been a change in mentality, because when I started, it was very difficult to have children. It wasn't widely accepted in the industry. There was no maternity leave policy. You had to you were usually the only woman who would even ever ask for it. So you're on your hands, please, I'm going to have a child. So, there's definitely been a sea change around this. So, so I'm glad that women as they come up in tech, is more welcoming, I think, to starting a family.
Yeah. And I think as more women are business owners too, I think because we've been through that experience, my first maternity leave was also like, I didn't really have one. I had to create it myself. So, we look to make sure that we have that built into our company as well. So we're definitely very, I think, progressively thinking on that as we're building policies.
I think that lends itself really well to expectations. Maybe that's the wrong word, but the idea that people coming into the workforce are going to be valued by the company that they work for has been kind of a foreign concept of recent years. And I think that the more companies have, like saying diversity feels so empty, but like actually putting their money where their mouth is and having people that represent a wide variety of human beings, I think it's going to just get better. And I'm so grateful that you're doing that.
Absolutely. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry. I'll just go off there. Sorry about that.
Oh, good. No, you're making great points.
So I would love to hear if you have, any sort of lessons that you've learned, like starting this company, being in the industry, just generally rocking out and doing the most. There's anything.
I think I can answer that. I think this is a you guys are gonna laugh, but this is a company value that we really hold dear. And I think it's very hard for students who are graduating right now with the kind of pressure these kids are coming out of, especially from Ivy League schools. But we really value failure. I mean, we really look at it, and we don't see failure as failure. We see failure as a necessary part of doing great things. So when I was younger, it was a hard thing to realize that you're going to fail many times before you succeed. And we generally land in success. It's not that we're saying we're going to fail on projects, but the steps to succeeding include multiple bouts with failure. And then you learn from that failure, you move on, you adjust, you try it again, you dust off your knees, and you're like, well, that didn't work, and instead of getting your ego involved, taking a really clear-eyed look at what's working, what's not working, adjust what's not working, try something new, and then redo it. Because you're just not going to make stuff that's never been done, or that's breaking, that's breaking a mold if you're not afraid to fail. So we have kids coming out of school it's a tough thing, because they're really taught, get straight A's and to do it right, and that there's a right path, that there's a linear correct path from A to Z. And in our world, there's no straight path. Me, Bruce, and Jill have been doing this since the dinosaurs, and we don't know how to do it. Like half the things we're looking at, we're like,
right.
I mean, we have tools in our toolbox where we can figure out parts and component pieces where this piece is going to work, that piece is going to work. I don't know how it's all going to work together. That technology has never been used, but we're going to try it. And there's no straight path. So getting over that fear that you're not going to nail it out of the gate. I think if I was going to give any young person advice on coming into this industry, is like, be ready to fail and embrace it and learn from it, and don't be afraid.
Yeah. And I think we try and embody that ourselves and say it when we realize it's happened to us too, so that our staff also sees that it's totally okay. Like we don't want to say it, but then also not live it. And so I think that there's that true faithfulness to, we're willing to fail in order to succeed, or we're, as Kirsten put it the other day, we're failing repeatedly so we can succeed. And so, we're totally willing to do it, and to be humble enough about it that it happens. You have a great idea and it doesn't work, but that's okay, because you can take pieces from that idea, put them in your toolbox, and use them somewhere else down the lane. So,
but to be clear, we've never had any big, at the end of the project, we've never failed, thankfully, in our 5 years. But as we stumble along that path, there's just no way around it. if we were building touchscreens and we went back to like push a button, see a video, we would never fail and it would be fine. But who wants to do that? Like, that's just boring. So
Yeah, there's no undo button, right, on life. You just have to keep moving forward.
yeah, and when you imagine really cool things, that's I guess the other piece of it. My developer is going to start texting me like, oh. when you imagine really cool things, you can generally make it in some shape or form, even if it seems crazy and you don't know the technology to get there. When you see it in your head and it's beautiful and it's amazing, like there's usually a path forward on that. So just because you don't know how to do it doesn't mean you shouldn't try.
Right.
So stepping back, I mean, I know we were talking about earlier in terms of uh, challenges of being a female within the STEM fields, and having to make your own maternity leave, which is kind of mind-boggling since it is currently 2021. But what are some of the other challenges that you've had to face in your career as a female within the STEM field?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because in our field, we touch content and we touch technology. So when we have our, back to the hat thing, when we have our content hats on and we're in a room and we're talking about content, it usually goes pretty gloriously. But when you're in a room and you're talking about hardware integration, you're talking about how things hook up, you're talking about like thinking about how the hardware pieces support software, it can be very difficult because you're often the only woman in the room, and it can be very difficult to be taken seriously. I mean, now I think it's a little bit easier because I'm a lot older, had a lot more experience, and and I don't get as frustrated. But when I was young, it was very, very tough to have men not ask me where my boss was, or constantly be thinking that there's somebody else who's going to come, who's male, who's going to actually speak to these things, and that I'm not there. That I'm going to be immediately replaced with somebody that they find more comfortable to be with. Like they're just not used to, I mean, in all fairness to them, when I started, women just didn't work in those technical roles. So it was very surprising when I came in. So it was always all men. So, at this point that's changed a lot. And I think the comfort level all the way around is changing. But we still get it on the technical side. I think on the content side, it's a little bit easier.
Yeah. And I think to echo what Kirsten's saying, like the amount of times that I've been in a pre-bid meeting with all men, or done like a job walk with all men, or been looked at as I've entered a meeting to be the person to take notes, just because, there's, 12 guys in the meeting and there's one woman and it's just like somehow it falls upon me. And I will say this, I take excellent notes because that's the way I learn and retain information. So I tend to take really great notes.
I take terrible notes.
But I've had to train myself to not automatically be like, okay, I'll take notes, because then it just perpetuates this cycle of like, oh yeah, she's here, she's taking notes. So yeah, there's just been so many times where I've walked into a room and it's been all men, and you barely even get like an introduction kind of thing, and it's it's the fabricators, which tend to be a lot of men on that team. The AV integrators tends to be a lot of men on that team. An institution itself, which tends to be pretty male heavy too. So I've been really happy, I think, over the past 5 years to see that start to change. And I think also, Kirsten and I have been, and our partner Bruce, we've been really cognizant of finding other firms to work with that have very similar, a similar progressive feel as ours does too. So we really want to work with other firms that are, led by women, or, led by, a Black woman, or led by, folks who are Native people, or something to that effect. We really want to find all of those other firms and really, create this community where we're working together.
Yeah, and I think one thing I'd add is, and we work with a lot of the women in our firm around this. I think there's, especially in meetings there's often a reaction, and I love all my male colleagues. This is not, I'm not bashing anybody. It's just where we're at in history, I think, and it's learning from each other. There's often the reaction when women have, forceful ideas, forceful thoughts, and they speak. There's a misconception that they're speaking more, that they're interrupting, that they're, monopolizing. And all this research has been done that's just not the case. It's just people aren't used to yet. I mean, I think this is changing rapidly. They're just not used to yet women injecting themselves like that. So I've been sending around this article at work, from the Wall Street Journal, really analyzing how much women actually speak in meetings versus like the number of minutes versus the perception of the people in the meeting. And there's a real disconnect between how people perceive how much women speak and think versus the actual unfolding of that. So I, my advice to young women is don't be afraid to speak your mind and get in, because that's the way these perceptions are going to change as we move forward in history, is that we just don't give up.
Oh my gosh. So is there, like, looking back, was there an obstacle that you faced, like, in your career, in your early career, and your, like, before now, or even right now, that you were like, yep, that's like my Scythian hill or something, like, is there something that you faced that you overcame, and how did you get through it? On the spot. I'm so
No. So I think this is ironic, given that we're on like a television show. So when I was hired at my very first job in our industry, the two principals, male principals, who, I have a great relationship with them to this day, they asked me, this looks great. Is there anything you can't do? And I said, I'm a terrible public speaker. Please don't put me in front of people and ask me to talk like extemporaneously. Like, I can't do that at all. And I had just gotten out of like an extremely grueling grad school, cycle with professors who were like drilling to us how to present to like room full of people, like very academic papers. And, I had been told consistently, the feedback had been that I was not good at that. So I just took that and I was like, I'm terrible at this. And it took me probably 10 years to figure out, like, oh, I'm not any worse than anybody else. And, I just need to get over that. And the only way to do it was to do it, really. Like, the only way to get over that fear was to just continuously be like, okay, I will present this. I'll present this proposal. I'll present this pitch deck. I'll present this concept we have. And, that's pretty much the only way that I was able to get over that fear, that odd fear that was instilled in me in public speaking. So I hope that's kind of along the lines of what you're looking for, Kelly, when you asked that question.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Kirsten, is there anything?
Yeah, I think, if I was going to be honest, I think, because I'm older than Jill, I think having children was really bumpy, at the time in which I had them. And it was very difficult to, maintain the ability to work really effectively and have children. So I ended up working at home for a number of years and taking more of a consulting role, and then going back into the workforce when they're a little bit older. But it's not, I think now it's a little bit easier to balance that. Companies are a little bit more woke, if you will, about how they help parents kind of maintain that family balance with their professional life.
Oh gosh.
And don't forget, anyone watching, you can post a question and we will be certain to get through as many as we can. And until then, so how has that played into, the building of your company culture? I know that you had said that maternity leave is very much part of the company culture and trying to make it more inclusive. I think that's a good stepping stone, or a good touchstone to have in order to have more diverse companies with, people coming from all over, all walks of life. And how does that play in? Do you have internships? Do you try to include as many people? Are there workshops, that sort of type deal?
That's a great question. So we do, I think there's two different ways that we do things. That could answer that question. As I said before, we're very big into testing all of our stuff. So we have a lot of nice relationships because we're really also supportive. One of our core values is getting women into STEM careers. So we're very supportive of groups such as Girls That Code, is an MIT group in the city. So we have a nice relationship with them, and we bring in groups of testers that test our interactives, which is great for us. But it's also a really nice liaison because they can kind of see, a female company that's inclusive of them and kind of shows them that there are different ways to do tech. So they come into our office quite frequently. We also have a nice relationship with the YMCA with testers. Again, kind of showing, especially, kids that live in the city, which is very diverse, different ways that companies are run and different ways you can use technology that might be more welcoming to women than traditional gaming. So both of those are great. And we also offer internships. So we work with Wentworth. We're reaching out to Northeastern. So we do college internships as well that bring in a lot of young people. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it certainly does. It's lovely that you mentioned Girls Who Code and Northeastern, but I'm biased, not. I'm a Northeastern graduate myself.
Yeah, just emailing with Marie over there about their yeah, they and Wentworth has great internships. Amazing.
Emily Lee, one of our wonderful members of TETV and just a general all-around amazing human being. She said, what type of new tech are you excited to see integrated in location-based entertainment or even existing tech use in new ways?
I can answer that for me, and then Jill can answer it. So, there's a big buzz, there's AR and VR, right? So augmented reality, we showed some examples of that with your phone. VR, when you think of an Oculus, you put it over your eyes and you see, augmented reality. It's not augmented reality, it's virtual reality. So you're in a different world and it follows the path of your head. So right now in a themed entertainment world or in a museum, it's a little clunky, because you don't have good ways of manipulating your environment with VR. And it's not ideal to be sitting in a chair with something strapped to your head in a museum where the goal is to work with other people to solve problems and to have this communal experience. So I've seen technology where right now the battery and the packs for the content for VR are very large. So it's difficult to walk around with VR, but those are becoming smaller and smaller. So I've seen ideas, which I love, and I think we're going to get there, as a group, where you could basically take a white room, like in a museum. You can have, depth mapping on the floor with black and white, and it can trigger the VR. So you can make a room into anything. We just need to get those packs much, much smaller so you're mobile. But you could make a room into a jungle that's reacting to, or you could make a room into, a Van Gogh painting that's that you're walking around and experiencing the stars. So something like that to me is such a game changer because you don't need the things in actual space anymore. You can just have empty construction as long as you have the depth matching to trigger those VR experiences. But it's all about right now you literally have to strap a backpack because of the guts of that VR. We need to make it so it's the size of a tiny little SD card or something that goes into those glasses. But that way you could it would be huge challenges to a school group, work together in this VR environment, don't bump into each other, to unlock treasure. I mean, you can think of it, your mind is the oyster of that. So, and it would be so easy for a museum to change it because they're just changing the media, the depth map. They don't have to build a whole new installation. It's probably a fabricator's nightmare because it would put our fabricator friends out of work. But to me, that just offers so much opportunity, and it's just incredible. The way VR is being used right now, I think it's very limited in what it could do, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
So for me, I'm also really interested, and I think this past year has been kind of a fascinating example of where these things can go, but I'm interested in where gesture-based or touchless technology can go and what we can do with that. I think possibilities have always been there, but in the past year, with COVID, we've gotten so many current and former clients who have asked us to pivot and who've been like, well, we don't want, we know you're building this experience for us that you have to trigger using a touch screen or something you touch. How can we make it touchless? And for the most part, I think we've found some really, simple ways to make people feel comfortable still touching things, but also, just some of the amazing thought processes we've had around that and like what we could do with gesture-based technology and how we could build those kinds of experiences. I think I'm really excited to see where we're going to continue to go with that.
It's really exciting, but we need young folks to come in. I'd say, one thing, and this, I don't think this is just because we're women owned, because Bruce has the same philosophy. But as an organization, we're very flat. Like, we don't have big hierarchies of management. We don't have executive committee. Like, that's just not us. Like, anybody with a good idea, we're all in. So if that's an intern who comes in 2 days a week, if that's me, if that's a graphic designer program, we don't care. We have design charrettes and, all ideas welcome.
Right.
So that's where we're just so excited to get young talent, new ideas, because they just see things differently, and we really embrace that.
So even with COVID, this is kind of riffing off of what you had said, Jill. Where do you see location-based entertainment going beyond, focus more on gestures in the shadow of COVID? How is that going to change our experiences? How do you think that's going to change? I mean, obviously we don't know, but it always goes through my head. I'm like, well, we can't exactly stand in lines in the same way at the moment, or that sort of thing.
I mean, I think two things. One, I think, a year from now, and I think we're already starting to feel it, I think there's going to be a boom in these kinds of, just people being able to get out and be in public, like lines be damned, right? Like, I think we're just going to, everyone just wants to get out and go to these experiences. But I think people in our industry are already feeling it because, clients are calling us and, looking forward to the future, and they want to, they want these kind of really cool experiences happening. But I think there's probably going to be a lot more, and we're already chatting with folks about it, a lot more things that are going to be triggered on your own personal tech device that really help you, either give you like a very clear cut, this is when you're going to enter the experience, so that there's no queuing or lines or what have you, or that the content is driven by, something that you've downloaded or some type of your device itself. So I do think that we're going to see a lot more of that in the future. And I'm really interested to see that and to be part of it too. Really, there's some really great ideas out there right now.
Yeah. And just to add to what Jill said, I think, again, every failure you see success. I mean, COVID was obviously a tragedy for our country and a tragedy for the museum industry. It's been very, very difficult. But springing out of that, I think there's a drive to innovate and a drive to make exhibits even more interesting and more biometric, I'd call it, where they're reacting to your body and not to your touch.
Right.
So, it's pushing us harder, which is a good thing. And that's probably one of the only good things that come out of COVID besides spending more time with your kids, But so, yeah, amazing.
Emily, gosh, her thesis.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. I'm just gonna toot her horn. Toot toot.
I know.
Emily, you heard about our job openings, right?
Right. Yeah, Emily, they're hiring.
I need to repeat myself.
Send your thesis as a writing sample.
Yeah. Or your thesis.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, that's so great. So speaking of which, do y'all have any recommendations or advice on how to reach out to people that you want to learn from in the industry?
Yeah. I mean, I've had a lot of students call me, and I think it's really brave, and just ask for informational interviews. The opportunity just to chat, and I think that's a great way to do it. If you see a company, I mean, most people are really busy, but they'll give you some time. So if you're really interested in something and you're not sure that's something you want to pursue career-wise, but you just want to know more about it, even if I can't do it, I could put a prospective employee in touch with someone in our company who can, and they can just ask some questions and get to know more about it. So I think that's a great way to reach out.
Yeah, I concur. I think, whenever somebody has reached out to me for that kind of thing, I've always tried to, make the time to chat with them, because I always feel like, in 15 years, they might have the next big project, for us to work on. So, you never know when that's going to come full circle. So I always try and make a point to give some of my time and attention to folks if they're asking for it, and because I love chatting about what it is that we do in our industry, and you never know where your ideas are going to come from too. So, or what doors are going to be opened creatively when you chat with these folks. So.
Sorry, I just got like a visual of like one of your doors behind you like opening as soon as you said
it. And my daughter walking in again. Did you get that visual? Well, there's another layer of doors outside that I locked after the last time, so she shouldn't come in.
So back when I was trying to work with kids, this is how much things have changed. I used to lock myself in my bathroom with my computer so that the kids couldn't get in. It's definitely they'd be banging on I'd be sitting in the shower.
Oh my God, that's insane. I love it.
I think most parents, I do think things are changing for the better, but most parents have been through these things.
Oh my gosh. I'm so like I'm not like laughing at the situation. I kind of am like, oh my gosh. I have like adult nephews, and then I have like a 3.5-year-old nephew, and I taught little guys for 4 years, so it's like it's very. I just had a very strong visual of that situation, and I'm so sorry that I'm laughing.
No, it's good. If you don't laugh in these situations, you cry.
Laugh until you cry.
Or cry until you laugh, whichever one.
Comes full circle.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so grateful for y'all to have come on the show. It was so good hearing and just learning about Trivium and the two of you and Bruce. We love you, Bruce.
Yeah, he's nicer than either one of us. Ask any of our employees.
Oh my gosh. Do y'all have any like final words of wisdom that you would like to like drop and impart?
Oh boy.
I don't know if I am that wise.
Of course you are. No pressure.
No pressure at all.
Right. My final thoughts would be, for folks trying to break into this industry to, I think I'm circling back to the beginning and to my own personal story where I came into this industry. I fell into this industry from an academic background of the Italian Renaissance art history. So if this is something you're interested in, I wouldn't worry about your background. And I think, even when we're hiring folks, we're not necessarily looking for the background. We're looking for folks who have those skills that we can help grow too. So I think as long as you are, you can think creatively, or you can think on your feet, or you're really interested in just doing something within themed entertainment, I think it's a whole, like, if the drive is there, then I think you've got it, and you just have to, find your way in however you can.
Yeah, I agree completely with Jill, starting out as a lawyer and ending up here. And I'd also really just encourage people to just follow their passion and not be so worried, about how much money you're going to make, where you're going to land. But, if you love this stuff, just go for it. And it all works out in the end. It seems like kind of a obscure career, but once you get into it, it's a lot of fun and it's really exciting. It gives you the opportunity to be really creative and to also really dig into content, which if you like those two things, it's a great connection between the two. That's what I always tell my girls. I have 3 girls, and I always tell them, just follow your passion and you'll land on your feet. Like, don't worry so much about like what other people think or how much money you're going to make. If you're good at what you do, you'll always get paid. So if you try to do something that's not your passion, even if it's ostensibly a higher paying career, you're probably not going to do as well. So that's kind of my advice to my kids, and that'd be my advice to anyone getting into this industry is find your passion and just go for it.
That's perfect. thank you both so much for coming on the show. I can speak for myself, and I know Kathy and everybody else at TETV are so grateful that you came on and just shared all of that information with us, especially for our first show and at the end of Women's History Month. Like, it's just
Thank you.
it was fantastic, and like from here on out, obviously friends of the show, we would love to have other people back from Trivium because we want to know like everybody.
That'd be amazing. Yeah, we have some great employees who would add a lot to this, I think.
Yeah.
It's so good.
They're definitely our employees are definitely why our company has just succeeded, and they've done amazing work. We're just kind of in awe of everything they do. So
It's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. This was great.
Thank you so much for having us on. It was a great way to end our week over here on the East Coast.
One last cat, right? All right.
All right. Oh, and thank you guys so much.
Thanks for viewing, and we can't wait to see you in 2 weeks. We're gonna have our next show. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to have Kathy. I'm just like I can't say excited enough. It's like an understatement. I'm jazzed. So, thank you so much. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Sounds great. Bye, guys.
Bye.